Right guys, in today's video I'll be comparing three different drivers. Some of them are actually quite old. As per request by one of my viewers, Dean, he requested that I review 597.09 versus 527.56, and then I just added in my favorite driver, 536.40. Sorry brother, you asked me to review two older drivers as well, but with all the power cuts I'm experiencing at the moment, these long benchmarks plus the power cuts make it a little bit difficult to get into. But guys, before I get into the results of my older driver quest, what I will request for you to do is just head on over to my YouTube page. If you are a subscriber, just make sure that you've got the notification icon selected so that when I do drop a new video, you are notified instantaneously. It really will help me with the algorithm. And then guys, for people that aren't subscribed, if this video is something that you enjoy, please by the end of the video, please consider subscribing and then naturally selecting that notification icon as well so that you are notified. Other than that, where can you go to download older drivers? On the Nvidia Drivers page, I'll link this in the description of the video. You just go to beta and older drivers and then just wait for this to load, and then under recommended you just go certified and then you search. So I find that Nvidia, slowly but surely, they're showing less and less drivers on this page, but it goes back to 522.25. So you can see I could download 527.56 and 527.37 here. And then if you want even older drivers than that, all you do is just type in Nvidia with the driver name. So let's just put it in 0.97.09. And then just use this GeForce Game Ready driver. It's also on the Nvidia page, but it's like an archive for all the drivers, and you can just download it like this, any old driver. But at that, let's get to my results. So all my games are tested at medium settings, except for the newer titles which tend to be a little bit heavier. Dead Island 2, I played at medium settings. Dead Space Remake, I played at the low settings preset. Ratchet & Clank, I played on the low settings preset. Remnant 2 played on the low settings preset. Returnal was on the low settings preset, but with FSR set to balanced as opposed to quality. And then Resident Evil 4 Remake is a mixture of high, medium, and low. Hogwarts Legacy at medium. So where FSR 2.0 or 2.1 was available, I used a quality selection. And as you can see, I haven't had a chance to work in my online games just yet. I have been downloading a whole bunch of online games to add to my benchmarks, but it's going to take time for me to incorporate them to my benchmarks. So as you can see, these are all single player games. And then lastly guys, I do test on a GTX 1650 laptop. So the way your graphics card interfaces with the driver is going to be dependent on whether or not you have GTX or RTX. GTX, I find my results will be reflective of most people on the GTX platform, but RTX obviously is a newer technology, so your results may vary. So guys, let's start off with the oldest and work our way to the newest. For the very old driver, 597.07 or 09, this driver is probably about 2 years old now, so I really don't recommend this driver. But anyways, let's get to it. When I add up all the average FPS over 15 games, my total FPS is 1047. When I divide that by 15, my average FPS per game is 69.8. So not a massive drop. Well, it's about 20 FPS drop from the more recent driver that I like. But average FPS is not how you determine performance in any way. Where this old driver really does come up short is the 1% lows. When I add up all the 1% lows over 15 games, my total 1% low is 724. And when I divide the 724 by 15, because I obviously benchmark 15 games, my average FPS per game, 1% low, is 48.27. Now if you compare that to the latest driver, where the 1% low average is 50.53, that's 2.5 average FPS lower in terms of 1% lows. So if you're going to use an older driver like this, you're going to experience a lot more stuttering and frame drops, and I really don't recommend using an old driver like this. So moving on, We're moving on to a more recent driver, 527.56. Remember when this driver first came out, I was quite a big fan of it, but that did change as soon as 528.02 came out. So when I add up all the average FPSs over the 10 games, my average FPS total is 1067. And then when I divide 1067 by 15, my average FPS per game is 71.13. So you can see compared to the more recent driver, there's no real difference. It's pretty good. But where it does come up short is when you add up all the 1% lows. Over the 15 games, my total 1% low total is 737 divided by 15. So my average 1% low for 527.56 is 49.13. So you can see that's 1.5 average FPS lower than 536.40. So when I divide the 1% lows by the average FPS, my stability percentage for this driver is 69.07%. So guys, not a terrible driver, but not a great driver as well. You can use an older driver. I highly recommend you stick to 528.02. The performance is still on par with any of the newest drivers, and it has great latency. Anything older than 528.02, I don't recommend. 597.07, you can see the average FPS is low, the 1% low are very low. 527.56, average FPS is a little bit lower, and then the average 1% lows are very low. And then we get to my favorite driver, 536.40. Over the 15 games, add up all the FPSs, and then my average FPS total is 1069. Divided by 15, my average FPS per game is 71.27. So you can see that's pretty much the highest average FPS that we've had in this benchmark. And when I add up all the 1% lows, over 15 games, my total 1% lows are 758 divided by 15. So my average 1% low is 50.53, quite a bit higher than any of these drivers. So yet again, I love this driver for single player offline games. So when I divide the average FPS by the average the average 1% lows by the average FPS, my stability percentage for this driver over 15 games old and new is 70.90%. So guys, this was a request done for Dean. I hope that this video just scratched the itch that you were looking for. But it just goes to show the older a driver gets, the more it starts falling away in terms of performance. I remember when 497.07 first came out, I considered it to be quite a good driver. Same thing for 527.56. But if you compare the results now, you can see they're just nowhere on par with the newer and the latest and the greatest. If you're playing online, if you're playing offline single player games, I highly recommend 536.40, especially on a GTX platform. I don't recommend this driver for RTX cards. You might find you run into latency issues. If you want the best performance and latency driver, I'm still going to recommend 528.02. Guys, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to smash that like button. If you have any questions, please hit me up in the comment section. And guys, if you're still watching and you haven't subscribed as of yet, what are you doing with your life? Now is the time to do so. Thank you so much for watching. It's people like you. Cheers.